It's the show the establishment warned you about.
That's right. Thank you for joining us. Today's Dr. Tommy Show. We are broadcasting live from the free state of Florida, and we're glad you're here today. This is free state of Florida. Right up the road from us is Land O'Lakes, Florida. We're in Tampa. Land O'Lakes, Florida is right up the road from us. I don't know if you listen to Rush or the Clay and Buck show, but they have this, and Glenn Beck too, but they have this current advertisement for Tunnel to Towers. Tunnel to Towers is a charity that is for first responders and fallen service members, and they build homes for those who are either injured, catastrophically injured, or otherwise injured, or also those who lose their lives. They'll pay off the mortgages. Anyway, Tunnel to Towers is building a Let's Do Good village right up the road from us in Land O'Lakes. Just heard that on the way in. I thought it was interesting. They got land donated to them from somebody locally, apparently, and they are building 100 homes in there. And these homes are built free of charge to the family members. It's a way of saying thank you for your service, and thank you, and hopefully to help them get their life back in order after this catastrophic loss that they've had. And it's interesting that it's right up here, and it's a national thing. And here we are. Tunnel to Towers, actually, Rush did a Stand Up for Betsy Ross t-shirt that was due to the response of the Nike canceling the Betsy Ross shoe at the behest of what's his name? The kneeler, Colin Kaepernick, didn't like the Betsy Ross. Felt like it was a racist or something. Anyway, they canceled the Betsy Ross shoe. So Rush did the Stand Up for Betsy Ross shirt, and it sold so well, then they donated the money to Tunnel to Towers. And anyway, that's good that they're building those up the road from us here in Land O'Lakes in Florida. So we're here in Florida, and as everyone else in the country is paying for Biden gas. Biden gas is increasingly hitting the pocketbooks of everybody, whether you're making $12 an hour or even more, 15 or 200. It doesn't matter. You're still getting hit by it. And you're getting hit in more ways than one. One of the ways you're getting hit is the direct cost when you go to the pump to fill up, but the other cost is obviously everything's costing more. We were talking to Tracy the other day. She was saying that, this inflation that they talk about as being 7% or something thereabouts it's got to be wrong, because some food prices are inflated 50% at least. We have a patient who has a concrete business, and he said he poured a concrete slab for playgrounds at his school, and between basketball courts, and between 1 week he poured the concrete 1 week, and then maybe it was even later in that week. Within that short period of time of about a week, the price of the concrete rose by $500. So that's just what you're seeing. But anyway, JP Morgan, this is from The Blaze. JP Morgan analysts say you'll be paying $6 per gallon for gas this summer. Isn't that something? It says the national average price of gas is a record high of $4.57 according to American Automobile Association, AAA. 16% increase over last week. I don't know what we're going to do about this. This is increasingly becoming unbearable, and the ominous sign. This is from the Gateway Pundit. It says here, Biden gas price spiraling. California tops $6 as pumps in Washington state run dry. Now, here's the scary part. Some stations add fourth number to pumps in preparation for double-digit gas prices. Can you believe that? If this was Donald Trump in office right now, there would be nonstop on the drive-by media, and anywhere that is from the establishment, you'd see nonstop coverage of what has Donald Trump done to cause this, and what is he doing, and why hasn't he resigned yet because of this catastrophe that he's caused. And it'd be the same thing for all the other stuff that Joe Biden has done or been around. I hate to say he's done it, because it's clear that Joe Biden is not doing anything other than standing there and being prompted by Dr. Jill when to speak and what to say and who to wave to, and if his grandkids in the audience or not. And anyway, Joe Biden's people, the people who run Joe Biden, and I think it's probably most likely Barack Obama coming back to finish the job, to take the country down a notch. He always had a chip on his shoulder about the United States. When he was first elected, he went on his famous apology tour where he went all over the world and apologized for the United States and all the sins that they have done in the past. And and throughout his presidency, he worked to downgrade the United States. And he even said at one point, back again he's returning to finish the job, when the gas prices were up under his watch, he said that and I think they had gone up to $4 maybe, or maybe it was only $3.50. He said that he wished that the gas price hadn't gone up so fast. He's not so worried about the gas price going up. He just wished it hadn't gone up so fast, because in these elitist mind, in the minds of these elitists, they don't care what the gas price costs. I misspoke earlier when I said, people are feeling the heat, whether they're making $12 an hour or $200. Some people aren't feeling the heat. People like Joe Biden, people like Barack Obama, people like Nancy Pelosi, the celebrities that you see on TV, they don't care what the gas price is. The gas price to them is irrelevant. They have never, they don't struggle to make ends meet, for one, and the gas price is not something that maybe they even pay for. In the case of the politicians, they have limousines that drive them around, and you and I pay for those, so they don't care what the gas price costs. But back to the thing is, Joe Biden, if any of these things that are happening now or took place under Donald Trump, we would never hear the end of it. And all of us who voted for Donald Trump or supported him would be considered anathema. We would be called on the carpet, and you would see the people too. You would see other people in our party, in our side, I guess you call it, who would be apologizing and saying, I voted for the guy, but right now he's just got to resign. It'd be like the Nixon moment when the Republicans on the Hill told Nixon he has to resign because he has no support. That's what they'd be calling for, and the news would be nonstop. Nicole Wallace would be nonstop talking about, are they going to go to the hills? Mitch McConnell going to go and tell Donald Trump to resign because of the gas prices, because of the formula shortages, because of the crackhead son, because of all the different things, because of the miserable withdrawal from Afghanistan, because of the Ministry of Truth, all these different things that Joe Biden has done. If Donald Trump had done it, he would be called out on it constantly, and you and I would be called out about it. But instead, it's ignored. It is ignored, or it is said to be something that is not his fault. It's the fault of, you pick it. It's the fault of Abbott for making bad formula. It's the fault of Putin for invading Ukraine, which I just saw. There was a headline that said that Fiona Hill was this, I think she was ambassador to Ukraine. She said, I guess she had let it slip that Putin was waiting for waiting for Trump to leave office before he invaded. And she kind of had a slip of the tongue. Every now and then these people will say something that is truthful on accident. On accident, they'll speak the truth on accident, and when it happens, sometimes you'll catch it. A lot of times, the drive-by media will never report it, but if you know what sources to go to, you can find these things. But the thing is that the stock market is continuing to go down, and then is everything that Hunter Biden has done is things that they tried to attribute to Donald Trump's kids, whether it be the selling the office for selling the name for personal gain. Hunter Biden, they didn't accuse any of Donald Trump's kids of being crackheads, but Hunter is a crackhead, admitted. Deadbeat dad. He's a composite character of everything that you would consider a bad seed to be if it was the president's son, and if it was Donald Trump, they could attribute all those things to him. And Hunter is the composite character of all those bad attributes, and it's under Biden, and because it is, it's swept under the rug. So it just angers me when I get there into the gas station and pay $86 to fill up, and I know it hurts people there's some people that can't even go to work. They can't afford to go to work. I was in Lowe's one time, and the guy was telling me that they're having trouble getting people to come to work because by Wednesday they're out of money. And now this was months ago. So this when the gas price was only $3-something. Can you imagine what it is now? It's $4.50. And they were saying that people are calling in on Wednesday saying I can't come to work because I don't get paid till Friday. None of this is necessary, by the way. They try to pretend like the only reason is because of Putin. Well, let's say the only reason is because of Putin. Well, the only reason that Putin did what he did was because of Biden. or the people who run Biden, because they know he's a weak person. They know they're weak people. They know that they don't have any clue about how to exert force or how to use peace through strength. So they are the reason. The people who run Biden. Speaking of people who are not doing their job, it says this from Breitbart. It says, only 11 Senate conservatives defy establishment to vote against the $40 billion boondoggle in aid to Afghanistan. So Afghanistan is our proxy war now. Afghanistan has taken the place of Afghanistan for us to send money to defense contractors. So this is our trade-off that we got now. Is $40 billion was the latest amount of money. And this is in addition to a 13.5 that was sent earlier. So this is what Roger Marshall, his senator from Kansas, one of the people who voted against it, said. He said, combined with the original $13.6 billion installment and signed into law in March, passage of this bill brings total spending on Ukraine this year to $53.6 billion, the largest foreign aid package provided by the Congress in more than 20 years. All the while, our NATO ally contributions have dropped off significantly. So here we are. We're back to this game where NATO is not paying their fair share. The people and the members of NATO are not paying their fair share. And it took a guy like Donald Trump to come in there and call this out, to say this is BS, to call this out and say, you know what, you people need to step up and you need to do your job and you need to contribute. But now that Slow Joe's in there, they're back to just the way they were before. So here it goes. It says, all the while our NATO ally contributions have dropped off significantly, turning this essentially into a proxy war between the U.S. and Russia. There is no long-term strategy and no end in sight. And that's the key right there. There is no strategy. If you were to waterboard the people who run Joe Biden and demand that they tell you what is your strategy and what is the outcome going to be, no matter what, they will not be able to tell you because they don't know. They haven't thought through that far. It doesn't matter, because what matters is the strategy is to inflict more and more spending on the taxpayers to pay for this thing. Because as long as you can say, we are defending democracy, which is this nebulous idea that somehow Ukraine is representative of democracy, and because of Putin's aggressive actions into Ukraine, then the only way we can achieve a moral victory or victory is to have Ukraine beat Russia. And then we're going to have Ukraine beat Russia by doing what? By leaking money to them, $40 billion at a time. If they really wanted to defeat if they really wanted to win democracy or whatever, they would just say, look, we're going to go to war. We want to go to war with Russia. And we're going to do this on behalf of Ukraine. We're going to do this on behalf of Russia. We're going to go to war with Russia. Or we're going to do this on behalf of Ukraine, and we're going to go to war with Russia. But we're not doing that. Instead, we're having this proxy fight. This is just more, And the thing is that Rick Scott from the Free State here and also Marco Rubio voted for it. So they're voting for it. And Rand Paul stood against it, and there's a few others here. But there's only 11. Mike Lee was one of them. Josh Hawley. Who else is there? Tommy Tuberville, former Auburn coach. And Marsha Blackburn. So there's several others too. But it's just disappointing that we're going into this proxy war with Russia, and we have no outcome. We have no discernible goals except just to slowly bleed the American taxpayer. And as Senator Paul pointed out, the money is not there. We don't have any money. It's not like we have money in the bank, a savings account. We're going to dip into it, rainy day fund. We have no money. By definition, you have no money when you're $30 trillion in debt. Okay. Not only do we not have any money in the bank, we don't even have walking around money because our budget deficit. So we don't have money in the bank. We don't have walking around money. So you can be in debt. You can be in debt. Net. You could have a net negative net value, but you can still have walking around money. Well, we don't have either one of those. We don't have. We don't have any money in the bank, $30 trillion in debt, and we don't have any money in our pocket because we have a net budget deficit. So we have to borrow the money from China, of all people. So China, as you well know, is not our friend, and we're going to borrow money from China to give to Ukraine to fight Russia. In the meantime, we have no formula on the shelves. Baby formula is gone. I mean, I never thought I'd live through a time when we had things that are going on like this. It's just disgusting. More stuff that is interesting. This is Chris Wallace, as you all know, is the star of CNN Plus that is now gone. It is defunct. It was 20. I didn't even think it lasted 30 days. The CNN Plus streaming service that they had this fantasy that people were going to pay to watch CNN on a streaming service. I mean, this is a cable station, the cable news network that is most of their viewers probably are either in New York City, Washington D.C., or California, or on airports. And aside for those people, I don't know anybody who watches CNN in large numbers. But anyway, CNN Plus is gone. But that rest assured, all of you Chris Wallace fans out there, he is now moving to HBO Max. And so we'll be able to still see him. And it's going to be Who's Talking to Chris Wallace. And Who Cares Who's Talking to Chris Wallace is probably more accurate. Okay, this is interesting. This is you didn't hear about. I guarantee you didn't hear about it. Gateway Pundit. Dallas man arrested for opening fire in Koreatown hate salon and injuring 3 Korean women, quote, motivated by hate. Jeremy Smith, 37, was arrested on Tuesday for walking into a hair salon in Koreatown and opening fire on Korean women before taking off in a minivan last Tuesday. 3 Korean women were injured in the shooting, and authorities are investigating as a hate crime. Jeremy Smith was booked into the Dallas County jails, charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault. He opened fire on 7 people with a .22 caliber rifle. It's a strange thing to use for attacking people. But anyway, this guy is motivated by hate, they say here. What they don't say here is that the Jeremy Smith happened to be a black person, and that is most likely the reason you're not going to hear about it anywhere on the drive-by media. Not because not because he's black and these people are Korean, but because it cannot be exploited. It cannot be exploited for political gain. This is a dead end for politicians who are looking to end to enact gun control laws, or to otherwise infringe upon the Second Amendment rights of Americans. And so this is a dead end street, and this is going to be memory hold. Now, as you well know, there's recent shooting here. I'm sorry, not here, but there was a recent shooting in Buffalo. A white supremacist, self-described white supremacist, 18-year-old, you call him a boy or a man or whatever he is, lunatic, went in and shot these people in a convenience store, or I'm sorry, grocery store. 7 people. There was no time wasted at all for politicians to jump on the bandwagon and go and use this tragedy as a way to exploit these deaths of these people for their own political gain. But a guy like this other guy, opening fire on Koreans, it's not going to go anywhere. And then there was another shooting too that took place, but again, it didn't involve anything where the politicians could take advantage of it, and so they didn't go there. That was the Chinese national in California who shut up a Taiwanese church. Heard nothing about it. Crickets. And Joe Biden, interestingly enough, not only did he not make any statements about it, he didn't go visit those people like he did in Buffalo. Have you seen Joe Biden lately? The guy really has got one foot in the nursing home. He's unable to string together even the most basic sentence without garbling his words or otherwise misspeaking, and it's really an embarrassment. And really, what it is a sign that I don't know what's going to happen in 2024. But I keep telling Tracy, I don't know how we're going to make it for 3 more years. I don't know how we're going to make it as a country with this way that these things are going. This is from the redstate.com. This is answers sought after 15-year-old girl who disappeared from Dallas Mavericks game is found with sex traffickers in Oklahoma City. This is the worst nightmare of any parent, is their child is kidnapped. And what happened was this young lady was with her father at the Dallas Mavericks game, and she was going to the restroom. So she's 15. Shortly before halftime, the girl left her seat to use the restroom and never returned. So her father went to the authorities after the game and said, before the game ended, and said, look, my daughter's missing. And the authorities said, well, this is not our jurisdiction. You have to report her missing in the town in which you live or the county in which you live. And so the father's distraught, obviously. So he goes home and dutifully reports it to the law enforcement in the county where he lives. And then they turn around and say, well, no, that's not right. You have to file it in the county where it happened. So usually in the usual bureaucratic BS, they send him back and forth. And finally, the guy he didn't know what to do. He contacted this nonprofit organization called the Texas Counter-Trafficking Initiative. And it was able to locate this poor girl who was online being advertised and sold for sex in Oklahoma City. And she was, they found her in a motel room where they had been rented for several days in a row, where she was raped repeatedly over the course of 2 days. She survived. They were able to find her through this company, or through this organization, Texas Counter-Trafficking. But what it made me think of is when I first heard that, I thought of immediately, this makes sense, that this would happen. A lot of times when you have something like this, it's your worst nightmare that you're going to run into some bureaucratic hassle. And that's what happened with these people. And it kind of reminds me of what happens with the government. I've had occasion in the past where I had to deal with the Social Security Administration on behalf of my mom, who's passed away since passed away. But anyway, it's that feeling you get when you get the letter from the government, this Social Security Administration. It could be the IRS, it could be whoever, and in the depth of you just feel this this dread that whatever you're going to open it, they're going to somehow screw up your life. And it's terrible. It has to be this way. And not all government is like this, obviously. Not everybody in government's bad, but the problem with government is it's so highly bureaucratic, and it's BS like this where they didn't report her missing. They didn't do anything because they said, look, it's the wrong jurisdiction. You got to go to this person. And this person said, you got to go to this person. In the meantime, this poor lady was trafficked and had all of these terrible things happen to her. That is terrible. But it just reminded me, it didn't surprise me at all when I heard that. And I just thought, as much as you can limit yourself with interacting with the bureaucracy, the better. Okay. So they have approved the Pfizer booster for 5 to 11 now. So if your child is 5 to 11 now, they can not only get vaccinated against, well, we call it vaccinated. I can tell you from experience, getting the COVID vaccine does not preclude you from getting the COVID virus, as far as I can tell. And this is an outpatient setting, so I'm not going to speak about the hospitalization and the courses in hospitals and everything, because they say that the people who are dying are mostly unvaccinated. That's what they used to say, but now it's changing, and maybe it's equal numbers or whatever. I don't know about that part of it. I don't deal with hospitalized people. I can tell you, though, in the outpatient setting, if you have two people and one has had the COVID vaccine and one has not had the COVID vaccine, I think, as far as I can tell, there is no difference at all when they get COVID, what their condition is. I've seen people who've had COVID who didn't have the vaccine who appear fine. I've seen people who've had COVID who got the vaccine who appear fine. I've seen people who've had the vaccine and got COVID appear very ill. And I've heard people tell me, patients, that not only were they very ill, but one patient went to the hospital recently because of COVID, vaccinated person. Anyway, so this COVID booster is approved now from age 5 to 11. Well, this is a story from the UK Daily Mail, and this is it says, wonderful mother of two, 36, died from first dose of COVID Pfizer vaccine, inquest told. So this lady was given the COVID vaccine last year, actually. In June of last year, she was given the COVID vaccine, June 4th, 2021. She was a full-time mom. She had no significant medical history and was not on any medication when she died. She had her first Pfizer vaccine on June 4th, 2021, and evidence after that shows her periods became irregular. She also reported pain in her arm and jaw. June 15th was a normal day for her. There's no evidence that she was ill on that day. She walked her son to school in the morning and went to get coffee with a friend. That afternoon, she had a 15-20-minute phone call with her mom. She didn't pick up her son from school. Her brother went to the house where he found her face down, collapsed on the floor. She had been on the toilet prior to her collapse. With the help of a local builder, they gained access. Defibrillator was used, but they failed to, they were not able to resuscitate her. And it said, subsequent to her death, a toxicology and postmortem examination were undertaken initially. And the doctor who did it said that they was unable to provide a cause of death for her, stating the postmortem findings were, quote, unascertained. And then they had this inquest a year later. And it says, today I heard from Dr. Gattara, and during the course of the evidence, he expressed a change of the view that that in the balance of the probabilities is more likely than not that she died from acute myocarditis due to her recent COVID-19 immunization. So she had actually had these findings that were looked like myocarditis when she initially had when she initially died. It says here that the only points noted were inflammation of the heart, fluid in her lungs alongside a small clot on her lungs. Now, why they said that they couldn't find what they said the postmortem findings were unascertained. I don't understand that if she had fluid around her heart. But anyway, so this is a lady who was 36 years old who got the Pfizer vaccine last year, one shot, and then 11 days later she was deceased and from myocarditis. But it took a whole year for it to come out. It makes me wonder what's going to happen in another year or another 2 years or another 3 years, and all these people are getting these vaccines. And how many of these people are going to have similar stories as this? Hopefully not very many. But the concern is that there is something going on with the vaccines, and there is something that is not being told to us. And this will cause you to get a potentially banned from Facebook, banned from Twitter, banned from YouTube. That's okay because you can watch the show on Rumble. But anyway, it just makes me wonder, and it makes me concerned that these children are getting vaccinated. And we know that children are the most at risk. And this is from their own mouth. The vaccine makers, that the children are the most at risk for getting myocarditis, young adolescent boys in particular, the most at risk of getting myocarditis or pericarditis from the vaccine. It happens. It's known. It happens. And so many times I've heard that what's reported on the VAERS website is very minuscule compared, maybe 1% of the actual side effects. And if you look at the VAERS website, if you do some research, and you can see that the amount of heart-related complaints has skyrocketed. It is beyond. It's almost beyond exponential. How fast the number of complaints have gone up on the VAERS website related to heart-related issues in the age of the COVID vaccine. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's going to be hopefully not bad like this, what happened with this lady, but it does happen. And they say it they admit it. Now, what they also admit is that the pediatric advocates of the vaccine say is that, well, there are cases of myocarditis that happen with the vaccine. However, the cases of myocarditis that happen with the vaccine are rare. And they are also more rare than the cases of myocarditis that happen with the infection. So what they're saying is that myocarditis happens with the vaccine, yes, but it doesn't happen as often as it does when you have the infection. Therefore, and this is when they make the leap, it is better to get the vaccine than to not get the vaccine, because you'll have less of a chance of getting myocarditis with the vaccine than you will be if you have the infection. Now, that's making two logical errors. One of the errors is, of course, assuming that everyone who is unvaccinated is going to therefore get coronavirus and therefore have a higher chance of getting myocarditis or pericarditis. That is clearly not the case. What is the other, and probably the worst logical fallacy, is saying that if you get the vaccine, then you will not get coronavirus, which is clearly not the case. Clearly not the case that the vaccine prevents coronavirus infection. And that is why the vaccine should not even be called a vaccine. It should be called you can call it a therapeutic. You can call it a COVID shot, whatever you want to call it. It does not provide immunity to coronavirus. And doing so is misleading the public. They talk about this, they have the Ministry of Truth now, which was recently put on suspension, and the Mary Poppins, what they call her, Mary Poppins of disinformation, the singing fool who was put in charge of this, Nina Jankowicz. She's resigned now. But anyway, the Ministry of Truth would be the ones to say, look, the vaccine is great, and if you say anything about it, you're wrong. They are actually the ones who are putting out misinformation. They're the ones who are putting out disinformation. People like Dr. Fauci. Because how many times did you hear Joe Biden tell you, and I've seen him say it read it off the teleprompter, he said that if you get this vaccine, you won't get coronavirus. Then he said, well, there's breakthrough cases, okay? Very rarely will you get the coronavirus if you have the vaccine. And then you will be called a breakthrough case. And the chances of that is 1 in 5,000. You don't hear about breakthrough cases anymore. You know that? Drive-by media does not report breakthrough cases. They don't use those words anymore because they know it's horse crap. They know that people are onto them. They know that if they say that, they look like fools, because a breakthrough case is nothing more than a case. A case is a case is a case, whether you've had coronavirus or not. And the idea that these vaccines are going to, it's one of the biggest scams ever foisted upon the American public in my lifetime, for sure. And for sure, it's one of the biggest failures of the medical authorities to adequately and professionally identify the risks and whatever the rewards are of having a therapeutic, risk and benefits of a therapeutic. They completely failed. And I read somewhere they said Pfizer was making $1,000 a minute, or maybe $1,000 a second off these vaccines. And that's the answer why this all happened. This is funny. I saw there's a different take on this by Babylon Bee, but here's the take from Just the News. John Solomon's project. John Solomon was used to be a establishment guy. He was in The Hill, and then he started reporting on the Russia hoax, and he was ostracized, and so now he's got Just the News. He was kicked out of the good company of all the drive-by media. Anyway, John Solomon's Just the News says, half of President Biden's Twitter followers are fake, Audit Tool shows. And the alternative take on it was from the Babylon Bee that says, a shocking study shows that half of Biden's followers are real people. So however you want to take it, either half of them are fake, or even more surprising, half of Biden's 22 million followers are actually real people. It says nearly half of President Biden's 22.2 million Twitter followers are fake accounts, according to an audit tool by software company SparkToro. So this goes back to this ongoing thing with Elon Musk and Twitter. The more this goes on, I think that maybe Elon Musk never meant to buy Twitter, and he only meant to use Twitter, and he was going to use Twitter, and he was going to use it to destroy Twitter. He was going to use the idea of buying Twitter as a way to destroy Twitter. And why do I say that? Well, he started off by saying, look, I want to make this offer. He makes this aggressive offer to buy Twitter, and he uses this number, $54.20. Anyway, it was more than what Twitter was worth at the time. And so he's going to buy it. And then they kind of push back, and they're like, well, okay, we'll let you buy it then. So then he starts to, make moves toward buying it. And then he slowly starts to slow walk it. And he goes, you know what? I've been reading, or I've been, looking at the numbers. And I think you guys, when you filed the SEC report, that you lied, because you say there's only 5% of the followers or users on Twitter are bots. I think it's much more than that. And I think it's more like 20%. Anyway, in his deal, he has an out, I think, where he doesn't have to pay the penalty. There's $1 billion penalty if he doesn't follow through with buying Twitter. And I believe this does not force him to pay that penalty, is if Twitter lied on their SEC filings. And apparently Twitter they're going to have to prove now that there aren't 5% bots, and that when they reported that it wasn't a lie. And what I would say that maybe he did it because, Elon Musk has always had this kind of presence on Twitter, but he's always been kind of a critic of Twitter. What better way to really criticize Twitter by pretending to want to buy it and then using your stage when you're buying it to expose Twitter for what it is this cesspool of censorship and also closed-mindedness and hate, really, violence and hate. And Rush used to always say Twitter was a cesspool before he died, and that's true. Twitter is a cesspool. And but it makes sense though that he would say, look, I want to buy Twitter, and then later on say, you know what, maybe I don't want to buy Twitter. I've just found out that maybe it's not 5%, maybe it's 20%, and maybe you guys at Twitter lied, and maybe because you lied, now people are going to leave Twitter en masse, and maybe when they leave Twitter en masse, it's going to make the price of Twitter tank, and your company is going to become the MySpace of the mini blog social media history. And it'd be interesting if that happened. I wouldn't care if it did. I wouldn't care one bit if Twitter went away. I don't care if Twitter goes away. I don't care if it stays. But it would be funny to watch it go away like that. Twitter is so Truth Social is the alternative to Twitter, and that's Donald Trump's social media program. I've been using that a little bit here and there in Getter. I don't use either one of them very much. I used to use Twitter, honestly. I used to use Twitter fairly significantly to keep up with headlines, but it became such a sewer, more or less, of just left-wing hate that I abandoned it a long time ago. And so anyway, well, that's enough for today. We're glad you joined us. If you want to follow us on YouTube or Rumble, or also you can go on to the MP3 download sites. You can go on the iHeartRadio or Spotify and subscribe, and you can keep up with us that way. But until next time, I hope you have a good weekend and keep safe. Bye-bye.